Talkie-LM is an AI frozen entirely in the year 1930. It knows nothing of the internet, smartphones, or even the Second World War, although more about that later. Yet it just proved something massive about how AI actually works. Welcome to Mafftopia. My name is Maff. In this channel, we report on fascinating science and technology topics.
Please like the video, comment, and subscribe for fascinating science news.
Every major language model today, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, shares the exact same ancestor, the modern web. These models have slurped up virtually the whole internet, which is great for us, unless it was your copyright that was infringed, but hey, not so good for AI researchers. When an AI solves a complex logic puzzle or writes a Python script, is it actually reasoning, or has it just memorized the answer from a Reddit thread that it scraped? We call this benchmark contamination. To solve this, researchers Levine, David Duvenaud, and Alec Radford built Talke-LM. It's a 13 billion parameter model trained exclusively on 260 billion tokens of text published before December the 31st, 1930. Why 1930? It's the US public domain cutoff date. Talkie-LM has only read old newspapers, Victorian etiquette manuals, scientific journals and patents from that time. It has no concept of a digital computer. The hardware didn't exist in its universe. Although, let's check that out. So this is the Talkie-LM website, where on the landing page, it introduces you to Talkie itself. Their headline being, "Have you ever daydreamed about talking to someone from the past?" What would you ask someone with no knowledge of the modern world? What would they ask you? Why is everybody in the future in such a hurry, for example? While we don't have time machines yet, we can simulate this experience by training, in Owen Evans' phrase, vintage language models. LMs trained only on historical text, and that's exactly what we've got here. And also, as you can see, they have links through to their GitHub, through to the model itself on Hugging Face. And they've also set up the chatbot to run online, although with a limited token window. So back to the digital computer thing, if we click through to the chat, let's try, what's the most powerful computer in the world? The most powerful computer in the world is undoubtedly the calculating machine invented by Mr. Thomas of Colmar and improved by Mr. Schutz of Stuttgart. This machine can compute and print off in a legible manner any number of figures from 1 to a big number, and by means of it, the operations of multiplication and division may be performed with greater rapidity and accuracy than by the most skillful arithmetician. A still more wonderful piece of mathematical clockwork was brought under the notice of the British Association at Cambridge in 1845 by Mr. Babbage, of course. To be honest, that wasn't quite what I was expecting it to come up with. 'Cause I did try this earlier, and it came up with something that was just altogether not that. They were talking about people as powerful computers. So I do wonder if this learns a bit as it goes along, or maybe it's just a bit random, don't know. With that in mind, what do you understand by the term computer? Because clearly it knows what a computer is in these terms. A computer is an instrument or machine for performing arithmetical computations rapidly and correctly. Computation is the art of reckoning, and a computer is an assistant in the art of reckoning. That's pretty good. Good knowledge for the 1930s. Essentially, the word computer started to be used in its more modern meaning, like referring to a device, rather than a person computing, in the mid-19th century. It was really just after World War II when programming electronic or mechanical digital computers became known as just computers. Can computer mean anything else? Yes, it can also mean a person who computes or reckons. Some other researchers who have actually probably been doing this a little bit better than me here, they gave Talkie a few examples of simple Python code and asked it to write a new function. And Talkie actually went ahead and wrote the function. It also figured out how to reverse a cryptographic cipher just by swapping an addition symbol for a subtraction symbol. It understood the underlying logic of an inverse function. That's a colossal finding. It proves that these models don't just act like stochastic parrots, regurgitating GitHub repos. They construct logical frameworks from 19th century maths and apply them to syntax that they've never seen before. So that's generalization. Of course, Talkie-LM's actual worldview is pretty alien to us today. If you ask it what the world would look like in 2026, almost a century from its time. In fact, let's actually do just that. And what will the world look like in 2026? Ooh, it's got a pretty good idea from the looks of it. Okay. In the year 2026, the world will, in all probability, hedging, be very different from what it is at present. So, correct so far. The population of Europe will amount to at least 1,000 million inhabitants, and that of the rest of the globe to 800 million. The sea will have been almost entirely drained and cultivated so much land. That's probably not really taking into account there's actually a lot of land surface available that hasn't been used yet. Usable land? That's a different question. New countries will have been discovered at the South Pole. They have to get beyond the seawall. And Africa will have ceased to be a continent of barbarism. The Chinese wall will have disappeared, and Siberia will be as well peopled as France is now. North America will contain 500 million inhabitants, not far off. And South America, 250 million, I assume. The Isthmus of Panama will have been cut through, and the Pacific united to the Atlantic Ocean. Europe and Africa will be traversed by railways in every direction, and a voyage from London to Calcutta will be performed in a fortnight. That's pretty ambitious. The art of printing will have been brought to perfection, and universal education will have been established and diffused among all classes of society. The languages now spoken will have become dead and only studied as dead languages are. The Chinese will have amalgamated their idiom with the Tartar, and English will be the universal speech of mankind. So yeah, that didn't quite work out, I'd say. The Christian religion will be professed by all nations. Okay, let's move on. In politics, all governments will have become absolute, for popular control will everywhere have been discarded as incompatible with good order, and the few remaining republicans will be laughed at as visionaries. Are visionaries generally laughed at? War will have ceased to be an arbiter of disputes. Yeah, they play checkers instead, or maybe Twister. And arbitration will be the sole method of settling international quarrels. Global court? Why not? That works. What else could we ask it? Because this gets things right, doesn't it? This actually is pretty good. It's prescient. How about, oh yeah, okay. Will people be happier in 2026? Undoubtedly they will. The earth will be better cultivated and more equally divided. The art of healing will have made progress, and the average duration of life will be increased. The people will be better fed, and more comfortably housed. Knowledge will be more generally diffused, and the comforts and conveniences of existence multiplied. In short, men will live more easily in 2026 than they do now. Not women, sorry. What does it know about war? Because I'm glad to say that there just aren't wars anymore. But let's see if it accurately predicted that. Will there ever be another global conflict, world conflict, like the big one, the Great War? No, never. The Earth will have become too thickly peopled for that. Okay, yeah, I suppose if you can't move, then, how are you going to start a war? During the present century, wars have been growing less and less frequent, and in the next, they will cease altogether and will understand that to shed each other's blood is a foolish and, I think I ran out of tokens. Let's launch into a new chat. There'll only ever have been one world war. So does it know that? How many world wars have there been? Has there been any model contamination? Does it actually know about World War II, effectively? Okay, there have been 9 great wars, interesting, which have shaken Europe to its foundations from the beginning of the 15th century to the present time. They're commonly known as the Wars of the Roses, the Wars of Religion, the Wars of the Spanish Succession, a lot of different wars. Okay, I would have to say, how many... That's a lot of wars. But how many global conflicts have there been? Okay, 9 great wars. It doesn't really discriminate. I suppose if it saw the Great War, what is World War One? Does it understand that? World War One was a conflict between Germany and France in 1672 and 1675, which originated in disputes respecting the possessions of the Duke of Lorraine. That's easily sufficient to send the entire world into conflict. It lasted 3 years and cost the lives of 100,000 men. I wonder what possessions they were talking about there. How about transportation? How advanced will transportation be in 2026? Basically, will we have flying cars? That's what I'm wondering. In 2026, communication will have become so easy and rapid that inhabitants of London and Paris will be able to converse together in a few minutes. Does that actually mean you could get from London to Paris in a few minutes? The 2 capitals of Europe, London and Paris, will then be little more than an hour apart. Okay, I'm now confused. And a journey between them will be accomplished in less time than was formerly occupied in travelling from London to York. Okay, I guess the Eurostar. Awesome. As we can see, especially with these predictions, Talkie-LM is a perfect mirror of the 1920s and 30s, but it isn't without its controversy, as we may have seen a little bit. It reflects the exact social attitudes, class hierarchies, and etiquette of the era. The researchers purposely used old letter-writing guides and encyclopedias for its post-training alignment, rather than modern safety filters. It acts as a raw, unfiltered snapshot of human thought, exactly a century ago. It's an archaeological artifact that you can have a conversation with. Check the description for links to the model, and see you next time. Bye!